Deion Sanders didn't flinch in the stands, but the moment wasn't lost on him. Watching his son, Shedeur Sanders, dismantle an NFL defense with the calm of a veteran, he knew this wasn't just a proud dad moment. This was history. A performance for the record books, 364 passing yards for total touchdowns from a rookie quarterback who wasn't even supposed to start. For Shedeur, it wasn't just about silencing critics. It was about proving that everything he'd built with his father, from college scrutiny to draft day disrespect, had led to this statement game. For Cleveland, this wasn't just another promising rookie performance. It was a glimpse at something they haven't had in 30 years, a real franchise quarterback. Despite the loss, Sanders turned a dead-end season into a reason to believe. He showed leadership under pressure, decision-making beyond his years, and enough mobility to keep defenses guessing.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
What happens next depends entirely on the Browns. The talent is real. Now, it's about whether the organization has the vision to build around it. One Shedeur Sanders just did what no rookie quarterback in NFL history has ever done. Drafted in the 5th round, passed over by team after team, labeled a backup project before he even touched the field. And then he drops 364 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown, all in one game. Against a real NFL defense. In real NFL conditions. With pressure, noise, and nothing to lose. And suddenly, the entire league has to ask itself, what did we just witness? Because this wasn't a preseason breakout. This wasn't garbage time. This was a statement in bold block letters. Shedeur Sanders is the real deal. And the irony? He didn't even win the game. The Browns lost. But that's what makes the performance even more significant. Because when everything else around him was breaking down, when the defense couldn't hold, when the coaching decisions collapsed under pressure, he stood tall. He delivered one of the best rookie quarterback performances the league has seen all season, maybe in the last few seasons, period. And no one saw it coming. Not like this. Let's be honest, most people didn't have Shedeur on their radar post-draft. Not seriously. He was the Deion Sanders storyline. The media angle. The legacy pick. Plenty of talking heads thought he'd sit for a season or two, maybe bounce around as a backup, maybe get a start here or there if things got desperate. And then Cleveland had to play him. Limited earlier in the season, he finally got a chance. And what did he do? He didn't just make the most of it. He rewrote the scouting report in real time. Elite accuracy. Controlled mobility. Command in the pocket. Smart decision-making. Leadership under pressure. All of it showed up when it mattered. And across the field, Cam Ward, the #1 overall pick. The guy teams tanked for. The golden child. The safe bet. He got outplayed. Not just by a little, by a lot. The symbolism of it all was too perfect to ignore. The overlooked underdog outshining the draft room favorite. The 5th rounder making the first pick look unprepared. The narrative flipped in one game. This wasn't just an individual showcase. It was a referendum on everything people think they know about quarterback evaluation. About draft rankings. About pedigree. About what makes a player ready. Because Shedeur didn't have the hype machine behind him. He didn't have teams fighting to move up for him on draft day. What he had was raw talent, mental toughness, and a relentless drive to prove everyone wrong. And that's exactly what he did. Even Deion Sanders, Coach Prime himself, was there in the stands, watching his son not just survive the moment, but own it. You can't script that kind of full-circle moment. It was real, and it mattered. But here's where things get serious for Cleveland. This is not just about one good game. This is about what that game means. Because when a player like this emerges, especially at quarterback, you have a choice. Do you treat it like a fluke? Or do you recognize the beginning of something special? For the Browns, this might be the closest thing they've had to a franchise quarterback since the 90s. That's not hyperbole. That's the sad, well-documented reality of a Cleveland quarterback curse. 30 years of instability, missed draft picks, washed-up veterans, hope followed by heartbreak. And then out of nowhere this. A guy with no expectations, no spotlight, and no first-round pressure walks in and delivers the kind of performance this city has been waiting decades for. So what now? Because talent isn't enough. We've seen that before. You can have all the arm strength and athleticism in the world, but without organizational support, it falls apart. The coaching has to step up. The front office has to lean in. The offensive scheme has to adapt. And the locker room has to buy in. Because Shedeur isn't just a rookie anymore. He's the most exciting thing Cleveland's had at quarterback in a generation. And now the pressure shifts from him to the team. Will they protect him? Will they build around him? Will they finally break the cycle of wasting quarterback potential? Because they've done it before. But they have a rare shot at doing it right this time. Sanders didn't walk into a perfect situation. He didn't get a red carpet. He got doubt, skepticism, a limited role. And in spite of that, he showed up, took control, and turned a meaningless game, on paper, into one of the most meaningful moments the Browns have had all season. It's not just about the yards. It's the way he played, the feel, the confidence, the steadiness, the veteran-level control in high-pressure situations. That's what stands out. That's what wins in the NFL. And maybe that's why this performance feels so much bigger than one game. Because it wasn't just a breakout. It was a correction. A wake-up call to everyone who thought quarterback success could only come from the first 2 rounds of the draft. 1. Because Shedeur Sanders didn't just play like a top-tier rookie. He played like a starting quarterback. A leader. The guy. And the fans saw it. The league saw it. The media saw it. And now the question is, will the Browns see it? Because they have something real here. But history says they might not know what to do with it. The coaching staff has to get out of its own way. The front office has to stop overthinking it. The ownership has to commit. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't a developmental backup anymore. He's the best shot they've had in 30 years to stabilize the position that's haunted this team since before some of their current fans were even born. And it wasn't just one good quarter. It was a full game of smart, confident, dynamic quarterback play. He made throws into tight windows. He extended plays with his feet without forcing chaos. He threw 3 touchdowns and ran in a 4th, all while playing clean football, under pressure, and with limited support. That's not luck. That's not a hot streak. That's quarterbacking at a high level. And if Cleveland can't recognize that now, they never will. The time for cautious optimism is over. It's time to build, to lock in, to give Shedeur the keys and let him drive. Because no one else on this roster has shown that kind of command under center. Not this season. Not last season. Not in a long, long time. And if you're a Browns fan, you felt it. You know. You saw the same thing everyone else saw. He didn't just play well. He looked like the guy. And now, the Browns have a decision to make. Do they move forward and finally stop the quarterback chaos? Or do they slip back into the same indecisive cycle that's kept this team stuck for decades? There's no more room for hedging. You've got the player. You've got the tape. You've got the performance. Now you need the commitment. Because Shedeur Sanders just put the league on notice. And if Cleveland doesn't take him seriously, someone else eventually will. Let us know in the comments. Should Shedeur be the future of the Browns? Did this game convince you he's the real deal? Or do you still need to see more? And if you want to follow every twist in the story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with every football fan who still thinks 5th-round picks can't shake up the league. Because Shedeur Sanders didn't just prove the doubters wrong. He just made NFL history. And here's what makes all of this even more surreal. He did it for Cleveland. This is the franchise that's been haunted by its own quarterback history. Every time the Browns have a promising rookie, there's a collective moment of hope, quickly followed by disappointment, poor coaching decisions, and eventually, another name added to the jersey. But this feels different. Not just because Shedeur Sanders had a great game, but because of how he had it. The control, the presence, the absolute command of the offense. There was no panic, no rookie hesitation, no wide-eyed misreads or frantic bailouts. He read the field like a vet. He extended plays when needed, not because he panicked, but because the opportunity was there. He knew when to run. He knew when to throw. And above all, he looked comfortable. That kind of composure on a struggling team against real NFL pressure is something you can't teach. It's something you either have or you don't. And Shedeur Sanders has it. Let's not ignore the deeper context either. This game didn't exist in a vacuum. He wasn't playing on a stacked roster with elite receivers and a top-5 defense. No, he was on a Browns team that, quite frankly, hadn't done much this season to inspire faith. A team with a losing record. A team stuck in the same cycle of rebuild and reset year after year. And even with all that, Shedeur still stood out. He didn't just shine, he elevated the entire offense. That's the hallmark of a true quarterback. Not someone who benefits from a system, but someone who becomes the system. Someone who changes the standard. And now, suddenly, the 5th-round pick people barely talked about is front and center in one of the biggest conversations in the league. Could Shedeur Sanders actually be the Browns' franchise quarterback? That question alone shows how massive this performance was. A week ago, this wasn't even a topic. He was a late-round rookie with limited reps, a developmental backup at best. And now there's buzz. There's intrigue. There's hope. Let's talk about that word, hope, because in Cleveland, it's not something fans throw around lightly. They've been burned. Repeatedly. They've seen the top picks crash. They've seen veterans stumble. They've seen games that looked like the start of something great, only to end with disappointment and another quarterback tossed into the dustbin of team history. But the way Sanders played, the precision, the leadership, the big-time throws under pressure, gives you something rare as a Browns fan, a reason to believe. And it's not just emotional. It's logical. 364 yards through the air. 3 touchdowns. 1 rushing score. No turnovers. All while operating behind a line that wasn't perfect and a team that, defensively, gave him no margin for error. That is not normal for a rookie. That is not what you expect from a guy who was passed over for 4 rounds. That's NFL-level production. That's composure in chaos. That's a player making his presence known, regardless of expectations or draft status. And it's not just about what he did, it's what it meant. This game could be the pivot point. Not just for Sanders, but for the Browns as a franchise. They've been searching for that guy since the 90s. And every attempt has ended in heartbreak. Either the talent wasn't real, or the coaching failed, or the front office bailed too early. The result was always the same. The search continued. But now they might actually have someone worth building around. So here's the challenge for Cleveland. Do not make the same mistake again. You cannot afford to treat Shedeur like a fluke. This wasn't a lucky game. This was the result of preparation, instinct, and serious football IQ. This was a quarterback earning the respect of his team, the fans, and the league, all at once. And yes, there's more work ahead. Yes, one game isn't a career. But it's a start. And it's one hell of a start. Because let's be honest, there hasn't been a rookie QB this season who's delivered this kind of performance against this kind of adversity. Not even close. And then there's the Cam Ward factor. This was supposed to be his show. The #1 pick. The player everyone expected to be the best rookie quarterback out of the gate. But when it came time to perform, it was Shedeur who stepped up. It was Shedeur who looked like the veteran. And it was Shedeur who controlled the game. That contrast couldn't have been more striking. It wasn't just a great game, it was a message. Talent doesn't care about draft order. It doesn't care about pre-draft narratives or combined scores or media projections. What matters is what happens on the field. And Shedeur let the field do all the talking. Now it's about what happens next. Because if the Browns are smart, and that's still a big if, they'll use this moment as the foundation. They'll invest in the right system. They'll put weapons around him. They'll give him a coaching staff that trusts him, not one that tries to mold him into something he's not. Because the skill set is there. The mentality is there. The leadership is already showing. And if Cleveland supports him the way a franchise supports a future star, they might finally end the quarterback misery that's defined their identity for decades. But it has to happen now. The momentum is there. The locker room is watching. The fan base is desperate for someone to rally behind. And Shedeur Sanders has given them every reason to believe he can be that guy. It's not just about numbers, it's about presence. And he has it. You can't teach poise like that. You can't fake confidence like that. And you definitely can't luck your way into throwing 364 yards and 4 total touchdowns against NFL competition. That takes preparation, focus, and vision. And Shedeur brought all of it. So now it's up to the Browns. Do they recognize what they have? Do they trust what they're seeing? Or do they second-guess themselves like they've done so many times before? Because if they get this wrong, it won't be on the player. It'll be on the system that never seems to know what to do with a gift when it finally gets one. This is their chance to change that narrative. And it started with a 5th-round pick proving everyone wrong on a Sunday afternoon. And now that the dust has settled, there's one thing no one can deny anymore. Shedeur Sanders just forced his way into the future of the Cleveland Browns. It didn't matter that he wasn't the chosen one. It didn't matter that his name was called late in the draft, while other quarterbacks were being paraded as franchise saviors. It didn't matter that he had to wait his turn, bide his time, and grind in silence. When the opportunity came, he was ready. And he didn't just play well, he made history. Let's break that down again, because it's worth repeating. 364 passing yards. 3 touchdowns through the air. 1 on the ground. No other rookie quarterback this season has done that. No one. Not the top picks. Not the media favorites. Not the guys who got endless coverage leading up to the draft. Just Shedeur. And he did it while his own team was losing. That's what takes this from impressive to remarkable. He did all that, and they still lost because of a failing defense and coaching breakdowns. It had nothing to do with him. It was a classic Browns moment. Except this time, the quarterback wasn't the problem. He was the only thing keeping the whole thing from falling apart completely. That shift alone, from liability to lifeline, is the beginning of something new in Cleveland. Because if you've been following this team for any length of time, you know how rare that is. This is a franchise where quarterbacks go to disappear. Careers stall out. Young talent is mismanaged, thrown into chaos, expected to fix problems that go far beyond the position. It's been a graveyard for potential. And yet, Shedeur Sanders walked into that and changed the entire tone of the conversation in one game. Not with hype, not with drama, with execution. That's what separates this performance from the dozens of promising starts we've seen from Browns QBs over the years. He wasn't just good for a rookie. He was good, full stop. And now the pressure is on Cleveland's front office, coaching staff, and ownership to finally recognize the moment they're in. Because if history has taught us anything, it's this. The Browns don't get many second chances. And this isn't even a second chance. This is more like chance number 25. But here's the difference this time. The player earned this spotlight. He wasn't handed the job. He didn't walk in with first-round privilege. He didn't have a coaching staff building the offense around him in August. He had to wait, watch, prepare, learn. And when the moment came, he was more than ready. The fact that his breakout came while the Browns lost the game makes it even more poetic. Because it exposed the real issue. It highlighted the cracks that have existed in the franchise for years. On defense, in game management, in play calling. And yet, amid that dysfunction, Shedeur thrived. That's how you know it's real. You want a franchise quarterback? It's not about winning every game. It's about how they perform when the stakes are high, when the support is weak, and when everything around them is shaky. And Sanders didn't blink. Even Cam Ward, the number 1 pick in the draft, couldn't say the same. He struggled. He looked uncomfortable. In that same game, with every advantage you could possibly ask for, he flinched. He wasn't ready. And that comparison was impossible to ignore. Because the NFL loves narratives. They love the sure things. They love top picks. But football doesn't care about draft order. Talent doesn't care. Grit doesn't care. The field doesn't care. One. And in this matchup, Shedeur Sanders made it very, very clear that the numbers next to their names on draft day mean nothing now. That's a massive wake-up call to the league. And to the Browns, it should be an alarm going off at full volume. You have something rare. A young quarterback who stepped into adversity and didn't fold. One who made the most of a limited opportunity, executed at a high level, and gave you something real to build around. So now what? Because if the Browns have proven anything, it's that they know how to mess this up. There's a long list of quarterbacks who were never developed properly. Scheme mismatches. Offensive coordinators who didn't trust their QBs. Coaches who panicked. Executives who bailed too early. But this time, they can't afford to panic. What Shedeur showed wasn't a fluke. His skill set is real. His command is real. His ability to stay cool under pressure, make big throws, move when necessary, and lead a huddle? All real. You can build around that. And if the Browns don't, someone else will. Because in a league this quarterback hungry, a performance like that doesn't go unnoticed. Other teams will be watching, waiting, wondering if Cleveland will do what they always do. Hesitate, then implode. But if they're smart, they'll lock in now. Commit. Start designing the offense around his strengths. Build out the line. Give him weapons. Tailor the playbook. Do what every successful franchise does when they find the guy. Because if you don't, you'll look back at this moment and realize it was the beginning of the end. Again. This is what separates winning teams from the rest. Not just having talent, but recognizing it at the right time. And this is the time. No more wait and see. No more excuses. No more fifth-round bias. What Shedeur Sanders did in that game was historic by any standard. The question now is, will it be wasted? That's up to Cleveland. Fans have seen too much heartbreak to fall for false starts. But this one isn't built on hope alone. This one came with numbers. It came with leadership. It came with poise. And it came with results. So let us know where you stand. Should Shedeur Sanders be Cleveland's long-term answer? Has he earned the starting job? Or is this just another chapter in the endless Browns quarterback saga? Hit the like button if you saw what we saw. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with a Browns fan who's been through the roller coaster too many times. And subscribe, because Shedeur's story, it's just getting started. And this time, it might actually end differently.